And welcome to today's video. And in today's video, I'll be doing the 2022 Senate prediction. I have changed the style from what I normally do. I think what I had before this, I think this is what I had. And then I just decided to change it to this for this. I've changed it before as well. Um, I've had it like this. I kind of want the not bottom donut. I kind of want a donut. I've done it like this. I did it like this a while ago. I'm gonna bring it back to this. If you guys want me to go back to the old one, I will do that. I'm probably just gonna change between them every few months or so. I'm gonna get started by living all the Democrat safe states. No, not Nevada. Nevada's not safe. Colorado's probably gonna be safe. I mean, like Biden almost carried it by a safe margin. I see Michael Bennett being stronger with Biden or stronger with Hispanic and Latino voters than Biden was. Just because Biden's weak and Bennett's like a pretty traditional average Democrat. Um, Iowa's probably going to be safe. I mean, like, Chuck Grassley, Pat Grassley, either one of them is probably still going to be able to carry it safe. I don't necessarily know that Democrats are going to be able to field a good candidate in the state. And I mean, like, it's probably still just going to be a safe Republican state. Grassley, either one of the Grassleys, especially against a weak Democratic candidate, would probably carry it. Although Grassley's one of the more moderate Republicans in the Senate. Um, so that may be a turnoff to Trump voters, but I mean, like, he still did phenomenally, and he's still probably going to carry it safe. For the Democrats, likely states they don't actually have any. For the Republicans, they have Alaska, Florida, and New Hampshire. So in Alaska, um, I mean, like, I don't see Murkowski doing phenomenally with the Trump base, obviously, but she's going to be able to get enough second and third for ranked choice. She's probably going to take enough second and third choice votes from Democrats and independents. There's a good chance that she wins over independents. And I mean, like, Republicans are she'll probably get enough third choice votes from Republicans to make fourth choice. Well, no, because I mean, they're probably going to vote Republican, then Libertarian, Independent. Well, no, actually, she's a Republican. So they're probably like third choice votes from Republicans, just who don't want to vote Democrat. Um, so she's probably going to be able to do well enough to hang on. In Florida, I mean, like, Val Demings, I think Val Demings is running. I'm actually going to go check up on that. But if Stephanie Murphy is the nominee, I mean, like, I don't know that the Democrats, um, have a whole lot of, like, options with Murphy. I think she's decent with Hispanic and Latino voters. I mean, like, Marco Rubio already did really, really well with Hispanic and Latino voters in 2016, probably because he was the incumbent. I mean, like, if you win Florida by that much, um, as a Republican, you're bound to do well with the Hispanic and Latino vote. I mean, like, Trump cut the Hispanic and Latino vote margin of victory for the Democrats in half, basically, in Florida, and still only carried it by like 3.3%. So I mean, like, okay, yeah, Val Demings' announcement is pending. According to Wikipedia, I just looked it up on my phone. But I mean, like, if Demings is nominee, if she ends up running in as nominee, which I mean, like, how is she not gonna if her announcement is pending? Then, like, yeah, she's a pretty good candidate. I could see her doing well. I could see her doing very well in Miami. I could see it slipping down to Lean. But with Stephanie Murphy, I don't see her doing well enough with Hispanic and Latino voters. Rubio is pretty strong in the suburbs as well. He's just an overall strong candidate. Probably will carry it by 7 or 8%. In New Hampshire, Sununu is just so overwhelmingly popular. We know that incumbent governors do well in New Hampshire. I mean, like, I think New Hampshire has like a very little liberal bias. I think according to that, like, there was something, I don't remember what it was. But they it was like the party or partisan state partisan index or whatever. In New Hampshire, I think didn't actually have a bias. I don't think, or might have had a very small bias towards the Democrats. I mean, like, I see Sununu though overcoming that obviously, but like, we saw Kelly Ayotte won by large margins. Yes, it was in the red wave, and we saw Maggie Hassan win by narrow margins as an incumbent governor. Hassan or Ayotte won by very, very large margins as an incumbent senator. Hassan won by fairly small margins as an incumbent governor. Yes, they're both in red waves, so we can shift them both to the left. But still, if we shift them, 10% to the left even, um, Ayotte still won by more in the Senate than Hassan did, um, in the governorship. but still, Hassan managed to beat AO. So incumbent governors, even regardless of how large a margin of victory was, which Hassan hardly won, tend to do well. And even with a very, very or a narrower margin of victory of only 5%, when you win by 30%, the bias goes, the lean for the wave or whatever, it goes. Sununu is going to win. He's going to win by 7, 8, maybe 9%. I could see him potentially even winning by a safe margin. I mean, like, it's highly unlikely. But if the GOP, or if for whatever reason Hassan isn't the Democratic nominee, Sununu is probably going to win by a safe margin. For the Democrats, lean states, I will give them Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. In Nevada, and for the Republicans, they get Missouri and Ohio. If it's gonna, there it is. In Nevada, Catherine Cortez Masto. I mean, like, she she's the incumbent now. She was able to carry it without having the incumbency. Now she's an incumbent, especially I'd say as the state's shifting to left, which it isn't. But as we see more suburban vote share, it's going to help her. She's going to probably do pretty well with the Hispanic and Latino vote. Overall, it's probably going to be a pretty strong showing for her, especially if Laxalt is the nominee. In Arizona, we're probably going to see a Trumpist be the nominee. The Arizona GOP seems to be shooting themselves in the foot because they'd love to nominate Trumpists, but Arizona hates Trumpists. It's not. It doesn't seem to be very smart electoral strategizing. But I mean, like, I don't know if the thing about Trumpists is they tend to do well in a state like Wisconsin. Yeah, if they're not establishmentarian like Ron Johnson, he's probably gonna lose. But that's for a few minutes. But they're not gonna be able to do very well in the suburbs, and only Trump. Trump was pretty much the only Trumpist who really has lots of appeal to Hispanic and Latino voters. Most other Republicans, most other Trump Republicans, or most Republicans in general, just don't. So in a state like Arizona, especially where Trump didn't do phenomenally with the Hispanic and Latino vote, I mean, like, it's I don't necessarily see the strategizing. I mean, like, if they were to nominate somebody, like if they were to nominate Cindy McCain, she would win. She would almost certainly win. Doug Ducey would probably win. I mean, like, he might be a bit too Trumpist, but still he could narrowly carry it. But with these Trumpists, people like Martha McSally, they are really hurting themselves. And they just don't have the appeal really in most areas in Arizona. In Georgia, I mean, like, it's probably going to end up being Herschel Walker versus Raphael Warnock. Walker, I mean, like, he has more appeal in the suburbs, I guess, than Trump. Not more than David Perdue, but probably more than Kelly Loeffler. But I mean, like, Raphael Warnock is going to do well enough with black voters. He's going to do very well, in Atlanta. He's going to do very well, in the Atlanta area. But I don't necessarily see Walker turning out enough rural voters. I mean, like, I could see him turning out plenty, yeah, like, not Trump levels, but he can turn out enough. But it'll still probably be Warnock, a narrow Warnock victory, probably like D+1 to D+2. In Pennsylvania, Fetterman is almost certainly going to be the nominee. He has loads of appeal to the working class. He's a phenomenal candidate for the working class. I don't know necessarily that he'll be able to turn out loads of voters. In Philly, I don't see him being, like, the best candidate that the Democrats could nominate for the black vote. But he's still fairly strong, and he has loads of appeal to the working class. In cities like Pittsburgh, he's a very, very strong candidate. And especially if Ryan Costello is the nominee, he's not a very good nominee. I mean, like, he's going to be able to do pretty well in the suburbs, which is going to be a big, big strong point for him. But they're going to continue to shift to the left. And, like, we're going to see more suburban vote share, but we're going to see a Republican gain in the suburbs. So probably those two could cancel each other out. We could see a narrow Republican gain. But the improvement that Fetterman is going to get, looking at 2020 to 2022, we're probably going to see it be the suburbs not really have much impact. It could slip down to D plus, like 0.9, if Frank Casella does very well. But Fetterman's strength with the working class is going to override that and probably end up making it like D+2, maybe less. But Fetterman's a very, very strong candidate. In Missouri, I mean, like, Eric Greitens and Lucas Kuntz are both great candidates for the Democrats. It's I mean, Greetings is probably going to be the GOP nominee. He is not a very good nominee. I mean, like, even Greetings himself, Greetings against an average Democrat probably carries up like 7%, which is very, very bad for the GOP. But then again, Lucas Kunz is a phenomenal nominee. They're both, Greetings is the type of candidate that I could see against a normal Democrat winning by 3 or 4. Kuntz is the type of nominee that I could see losing by 3 or 4 against a normal Republican. When you put two candidates like that against each other, it creates a scenario where it's looking very, very good for the Democrats. And I could see Kuntz winning. Realistically, there's a very good chance that Missouri votes to the left of North Carolina. It's not outside their own possibility. So I don't think that people should underestimate Kuntz. I don't think that they should or overestimate Greetings. I think that this is going to be a much more competitive matchup than we thought. It was going to be, and it's weird, but I mean, like um I tend to have unpopular opinions, and it's strange that some of my opinions, like I overestimate Democrats apparently in Missouri, or it seems like I compared to other people. But then I overestimate Sununu in New Hampshire. It's strange, but I'm not even certain. I overestimate Bennett in Colorado and Chuck Grassley in Iowa, or Pat Grassley, depending on who the nominee is. But I do think that this is one race where we could see the Democrats do um, surprisingly well. In Ohio, Tim Ryan is a phenomenal nominee. He has loads of appeal to the working class. He's probably going to narrow it up. I mean, like I just hit my pillow or my mic with a pillow. He has, he's probably the second strongest Democrat in the state, other than Sherrod Brown. And I mean, like, he is the type of candidate that could realistically carry Ohio. I think that if you want a Democrat to carry Ohio, and it's not going to be Sherrod Brown, it's Tim Ryan. Well, in Ohio, like obviously on the presidential level, Tammy Baldwin would be pretty strong. But Tim Ryan is one of the strongest Democrats in the state of Ohio. I just hit my mic with my pillow again. He has bags and bags of appeal to the working class. He is very, very good. His main problem is going to be able to do well is going to be doing well in a lot of these bigger cities. But he is, I think that he's going to really be able to fire up the working class in Ohio, a lot of these Obama to Trump voters, and significantly narrow it up. For the Democrats' tilt states, I'm going to give them Wisconsin. For the Republicans, I'm going to give them North Carolina. Both of these, honestly, I could see them both going the other way. I would say that Wisconsin or North Carolina is probably more likely to go to the Democrats, and Wisconsin is to go to the GOP. But they could both easily go to the opposite party. In Wisconsin, I mean, like, looking at this, Ron Johnson is establishmentarian. He did not do very well with the working class in 2016. I'm not even certain where he got his vote from because I don't think he did very well in Milwaukee either. I don't remember. Um, I don't know if he was just piggybacking off of Trump's rural support. But the thing is, he's not going to have Trump on the same ballot as him. He's not going to get the same rural numbers that Trump was able to get. He's not going to turn out loads of rural voters. But he is a really bad candidate. He's probably worse than Trump. In the sense that like Trump is a good candidate. It's not like Trump is a bad candidate. It's like he's almost like Mitt Romney without suburban appeal or Trump without working class appeal. He's like if you put Trump and Mitt Romney together looking for a phenomenal GOP candidate, and you got, instead of working class and suburban appeal, you got no working class appeal and no suburban appeal. He's too Trumpist to have appeal in the suburbs. He's too establishmentarian to have appeal with the working class. He's a really bad candidate. Sarah Godlewski is like average with the working class and average in the suburbs, and like she has enough appeal to narrowly carry it. In North Carolina, I mean like looking at this, Cherry Beasley I think is a very strong nominee. I think that North Carolina isn't like the right state for her. I think if she were in Georgia, she would be a phenomenal nominee. Not she isn't, but North Carolina, looking at what the Democrats need to be able to flip the state, I don't know that she's a great candidate. Because, I mean, like, a lot of people tend to talk about black turnout. And yes, black turnout, and like I said, like Georgia is still below their share of the electorate. The problem with Democrats in North Carolina is that black voters were in 2020, according to CNN, were already represented at their share of the electorate. The Democrats' main problem in North Carolina is doing well in the suburbs. If they can lose the suburbs by 3, 4, or 5% less, they can win. And the thing is, the Democrats already do very, very well with the black vote in North Carolina. Cherry Beasley, I think, is a phenomenal candidate for the black vote. The thing that makes her strong in North Carolina is that she also has appeal in the suburbs, and she also has appeal to the working class. I mean, like not as much appeal to the working class as Tammy Baldwin or Sherrod Brown, and not as much appeal in the suburbs as someone like Mitt Romney for the GOP. But she is good in the suburbs, and she is good in the working class, and I think that she would be able to do well with this larger suburban share of the electorate, and she could raise black turnout among their share of the electorate, which would be a very, very good sign for the Democrats. Um, which is why I think that she could do well. I mean, like we could see Jeff Jackson be a pretty strong nominee. I think that Jackson would probably beat Pat McCrory narrowly, and Beasley would probably beat Pat McCrory by like a half a percentage. But right now, I mean, like it's hard to tell who the nominees are going to be. And I mean, like since it's so hard to tell, and since it does have a Republican lean, since there are so many nominees in this race, I think that probably one of the most likely scenarios is McCrory versus Beasley, in which case scenario it is tilt blue. I don't want to get ahead of myself with this, but I do think I will say it. That's probably the most likely scenario. There are a lot of these scenarios are really likely. There are a lot of scenarios. If there were like less candidates, less potential candidates, I would probably be making a more decisive call. But I do think that the most likely scenario is probably Beasley versus um, McCrory, assuming that Beasley doesn't peak too early. And then in that scenario, it is a narrow Beasley victory. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like below. Stay tuned for my next video tomorrow. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.